Hey guys, and welcome to today's podcast. I am Jen Bjarnson, and today I want to talk to you about what I like to call your rules in your life. Now, so many people have labeled this differently. Some people even put fun little labels on it, but basically is what it is your who you are as a person, your core being. So, for instance, some people even talk about your personality or your energy type. Some people want to talk about your love language. Now, all of these together are your rules. This is what you want. This is what you need. This is who you are to your core and what you need to function, what fills up your cup, what gives you energy, how you process things in life. And I want to talk about how understanding this is such a vital part to becoming happy. Because if you can understand your rules, you can understand who you are as a person, now you can really relate that into your relationships, in your business life, and even in your physical health. So, to start off with, this is really important. It's a really important part of self-awareness. And if you can understand this part of yourself, now you can figure out these key elements of what you need. Because what I have found is so many times when I get upset, when I get frustrated, when I have a negative response, whether it's to a person or a situation, it's always because I'm not getting a need met. But at the same time, a good portion of the time, I have not expressed that. I just now kind of expect that because, and not in a malicious way. The majority of time it's not malicious. It's just I either one didn't know how to express it, or number two, I didn't know it was a need. And once I got frustrated, once I got upset, now I realized, why am I upset? Why am I frustrated? Oh, this is important to me, and I'm now recognizing that this is important to me. And so then it kind of sparks a topic of, I know now that I need to express what it is, this need or this want that I now recognize that I have. And that's my part in it. My part is I need to either rectify the situation by telling the other person or framing the experience. So now that I get my need, I get the thing that I want out of the experience. And so if we don't have that self-awareness of what it is that we need and we don't recognize it, well, now it's so easy to go into the victim mentality because you think that other person is making you upset. You think the situation is making you upset. But if you can have this self-awareness of recognizing, oh, no, this is a need I have. And it's my job to tell people and not only what I need, but how to achieve that need. So understanding this is a huge part in relationships. Like I said, even your physical health and even in business, because so many times we work with other people. So many times our businesses are dependent on other people. And I think right now, especially for women, there's maybe not as much, but there was a time where girl bossing, like boss babe and girl boss, and, just really trying to achieve this high performing level was kind of maybe not expected, but it was very much applauded. And that is great because if you're a person who can do that and maintain that, that's awesome. Like, I think that's an amazing quality. And there are women, there are men who I've seen do it, and they absolutely achieve that, and they're great at it. But at the same time, if you're somebody like myself, who that just exhausts, that's so tiring. And it's now this really hard thing to achieve. Now you just feel defeated. You just feel like, I can't achieve that, so maybe I'm not meant to be in this space. Maybe I'm not meant to be a business person. And that's not true. You're gonna have to find a different way to do it that meets your needs and that fills your wants. So understanding that is extremely important. So one of the things, how do we find this? How do we find our needs? How do we find who we are as a person? Well, I'll tell you the ones that I like, and there's so many out there. But the first one that I highly, highly recommend, just because I love her, I'm obsessed with her. I love the fact of the way that she frames personalities. And she doesn't even call it personalities. Her name is Carol Tuttle, and it's all about energy types. And I know there's so many different types of personalities, and people put, numbers on it, and people put colors on it, and people put cute little words and things like that. And I completely understand. But I understand that they're all like similar, but at the same time, the way that Carol Tuttle frames this is very much like, this is how you move throughout the world. And it's never shamed. It's never looked upon as, oh, you're just silly because this is, you like this and that's silly. And it's never looked upon like that. It's, you have a gift and you have challenges. And so, but all of them everybody adds a wonderful thing to life. And so if you're interested in it, I highly recommend, just because it's not like you can go, it's not like everybody has such a different way to look at personalities. But this one, it truly taught me who I was. And it taught me that who I was to my core was okay. Because one of the things that she talks about is your needs, as far as like, for myself, I would be considered a type 4, which is a very, I like to perfect things. And it's super easy to be looked at and judged as I am too critical or I want things perfect. But the great thing about that is I can look at stuff and I can fix it a little bit, right? Like I can say, okay, if we did this, that would just improve it so much better. And that's a gift I give to the world. And she has just labeled them type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. There's only 4 types. So it's super easy, very, very quickly. And I'm not educating you on this because I'm not an expert, but like 1s are kind of the fun-loving, kind of animated type. They're very lighthearted. 2s are very emotionally moving in the world. They love connection. And 3s are very result oriented. They're very action. And 4s are very perfectionist. They look at things and they just have a very keen eye. So that's the very basics of it. But I highly encourage you to go figure out who you are, what your energy type is. And if this is not, your thing, as far as, you have found there's human design, there's even, there's another one, the Enneagrams, and there's just a lot of different ones. This one I personally love. I love the way it describes. But if you have found one that really resonates with you, there's no wrong way to do this. And so figure out what it is that your needs from that is. So for instance, myself, understanding that I am a type 4, I inwardly process emotion. I don't like to outwardly process emotion. So like, for instance, when I have a really emotional experience, I do not feel comfortable crying in front of other people. That's a really hard thing for me to do. I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable. It's just not a thing that I can do very easily. And I have other family members or other people who are what you would consider a type 2, and they don't really have a problem with that. They find it easy to cry in front of people. Now, I'm not saying they're wrong. and they're not saying I'm wrong. It's just how we process emotion. And that's one thing I love about understanding your energy type is when I realized that I'm not weird because I don't want to process emotion with other people, that I would like to do that by myself or with a very select group of people that I feel safe with. That's fine, as long as I'm processing emotion. One of the things I have found with this, and I've highly recommended especially when I'm talking to men, is I really encourage them to figure out their energy type. And the main reason why is a lot of times personalities or energy types can be geared towards women. But if men can really understand this just on how they process things, like they process emotion, they process feelings of some kind. If you can understand that now between you and your partner, you know how to navigate that. Because if you have a man who is very much like me, who doesn't want to process emotion with people, they want to process it by themselves. Sometimes the partner can feel left out, like you don't want to share your feelings with me. You're not opening yourself up. And it's not that at all. It's just genuinely like that's how me as a person, I would process things. If you looked between me and my husband, he is a very emotional type person where you can definitely tell what he's feeling. You can tell when he's mad. You can tell when he's upset. Where I have a very more stoic look on my face. Like I could be fuming mad and I still kind of just don't show a whole lot of emotion. And so a lot of times I have to tell him what I'm feeling because he'll look at me and go, what's happening right now? Like, are you upset? Are you mad? And nope, just listening. Nope, I'm fine. Or I'll say, yeah, I am upset. And it's easy to shame, and I don't mean to get stuck on specific type 4s, but it's really important to understand who you are, because when you can say, I am this type or I'm this personality, now when you're working with other people, it's not that you expect them to understand that, but maybe you can adjust yourself so you can get the outcome that you want. So for myself, knowing certain things about me, knowing that my face may not show my emotions correctly because I kind of have one look, or maybe I'll look a little more upset than what I'm planning or what I'm feeling, I will consciously make an effort sometimes when I'm with specifically other energy types, and I want them to know that I care, or I want them to know, maybe I want them to be able to read my face. And so because I know that about myself, I can adjust because I want to have a better relationship with these people. Nobody's asking me to do this. Nobody's expecting me to do this. But at the same time, I can act according to what the results I want. A really good example of this is I have a family member who is more of a softer type 2, and me being the type that I am can be a little more blunt, can be a little more abrasive sometimes. And because I know that, I take it on myself to try to soften things in certain situations. And again, not that person is not asking me to do that, and that person's not expecting me to do that, but because I want a good relationship with this person, I will do that enough to help the relationship. Same with my kids. If I feel like I can kind of tell on their face when I have been a little too intense with them. I have a couple of kids who I can tell when I get too intense, it affects them negatively because it's a little too much intensity for them. And so I will say, I've given them permission to tell me when it's a little too intense sometimes. And not that I can't reprimand them when they need reprimanding, but when it's getting too scary or it's getting too much, they'll say, are you mad at me? Because you're acting really mad. And I'll say, no. This is an important conversation, and I'll redirect it in a way that gets my point across, but isn't so intense that they're not getting the message. And I think this is really important because sometimes I've seen it where people learn their personality, they learn their energy type, they learn their Enneagram, they learn whatever it is. And sometimes people use it as an excuse to say, well, I'm a 4, or I'm a 3, or I'm an 8, or I'm a this. And that's just who I am. And really, the whole point of it, whether you're using Myers-Briggs or Enneagrams, it doesn't matter which one you're using it as. It's a tool so that you can have better relationships. And if you understand yourself, that's how you have better relationships. Because also, if you take who you are, and then you take the other person that you're trying to have a good relationship with, and then you come to a good, common ground. Not that you change yourself. I don't believe in changing yourself so the other person is comfortable, but you change that you get and the outcome that you would like that is beneficial for both of you. It benefits me to be a little softer to people who aren't as intense as me, that I want to have a good relationship with, because what's the point of me being so abrupt and so intense with them when that's just going to make them back away, and it's not going to get the outcome that we both want. We both want to have a good relationship. And if I come across just like, this is the facts, you did this, I don't like this, don't do that anymore, and I could just say, well, I'm just being honest. Yeah, but it's also can be rude and aggressive, and that person can definitely feel like they're being attacked. And if my whole point is like, well, that's not how I meant it, well, it's still how it came across. Now, if I don't care about the relationship and my whole point is to be rude, and my whole point is to be abrasive, and well, that's a different story. But if I want to have a good relationship with this person, now it's adjusting accordingly. And I don't do it perfectly every time. I try to have an appropriate response that we both feel comfortable with, one that allows me to have boundaries, but also makes it appropriate for the other person, is how I feel would be ideal. So how you would use this in business, well, anytime you can kind of gauge the other person's energy type or personality, well, now you can just have an even better business exchange. I remember when my husband and I, we were redoing our house, and if you looked at both of my husband and I's energy type or personalities, we are both very, respect is very important. So for instance, for me, if I tell you something in a sales situation, let's say you're a salesperson, and I tell you something, if listening to me and respecting what I have said is very important to me, and that's important to my husband as well. So the two of us together, typically when we have decided to do something, we have already made a decision. We have already, like, whether yes or no. We don't need to typically be sold on something. If we want flooring, we typically, like, if we go into a flooring place, it's typical, like, we're getting flooring, this is our budget, this is generally what we're looking for. You don't really need to sell us on it, because we have a pretty good idea of what we want. And it was interesting because we were remodeling this house, and we had 3 different people come into our home where they said, well, we'll do the measuring and we'll give you some sales quotes. And what I said was, this is what I'm looking for. I want this in this price range. What do you have? And they gave their whole sales pitch, and then come to find out, about 45 minutes later, after this whole thing, they said, well, and I said, this isn't going to work. After I looked at all these different things, I said, man, that's not going to work. And then come to find out, in their car or whatever it was, they had another booklet of what I actually wanted. And in my head, right there, he had lost the sale, because he didn't tell me I was very blatantly honest with what I wanted, and they tried to go around it to upsell me. And now I get it. That's sales. I totally understand it. But at the same time, if you can kind of understand people's personalities, if you kind of know the basics, you can tell that about a person. If I have gone into places and I'm talking to people and I can genuinely gauge this person's wants to connect emotionally, this person just wants results. And you can do this by understanding those personalities. And so it's interesting because the person that came into our home selling the carpet, selling the flooring, typically they were uncomfortable selling me. And they all told me this. They said, well, what you're asking, I'm uncomfortable selling you that because it's not the best product. It's not this. And that's not, and a few of them said, that's not what you want. And the interesting thing is, and I'm not going to go down the road of how I felt about that, but the point is if you can understand energy types or personalities, you would know that between me and my husband, that was not going to get the sale. And I've done this. I've totally looked at people and I'm like, you're this type of person. If I connect with you on an emotional level, or if I connect with you on a results level, if I connect with you on this is the best for the best quality, like perfectionism, we're going to have a better interaction. And we are. And the other people that came into my home and they didn't know energy types and they didn't understand personalities, they came in trying to sell me because they're like, oh, they were trying to connect with me on an emotional level, and that's not me. And so it's not to make it all about me. The whole point is, who are you? And if you connect with people on an emotional level, that's amazing. But if you want to be good at sales and you learn this, you can start looking at people and saying, okay, I know that I may be more of an emotional person and I connect between, like, let's talk about family or let's talk about your loved ones. But there are going to be people who do not connect on that, and you'll lose the sale because of that. Because you're trying to connect with them and that doesn't do it for them. That's not who they are. All right, so understanding personalities, huge in business, huge in relationships. And the way it can affect you physically is, especially if you're like a higher energy person or a lower energy person, you're going to know how physically hard to push yourself. And it's really fascinating because if you look at my husband and you look at myself, he is definitely more of a higher energy and I am a lower energy. But I have always pushed myself so hard. And for the longest time, I had a crazy amount of health issues. I had adrenal fatigue and all this stuff because I was just pushing myself so hard. And then when I finally realized these needs and I finally realized that I was pushing myself, and there's a whole reason as to why I was pushing myself. I thought it would give me significance. I thought it would get me, we'll dive into that later, but there's a reason why I was pushing myself. And it's usually because of the stories and the lies that we tell ourselves that, if we do this, then mommy and daddy will love me more. If I do this, then I'll get significance. If I show people how hard I work, then people will like me more. It's a whole thing. But the reality is that when I slowed down, because I realized that I am not as intense as I was pushing myself. I'm intense. But I'm not that intense. I'm not physically intense. And so when I realized that, I was able to slow back, and I've actually been able to get out of adrenal fatigue and autoimmune diseases and just things that I could tell my body was starting to break down. And I feel so much better because I recognize that I'm not a high energy person. That's just not me. And I watch other people who are high energy, and I would love to move as fast as them. And if you're a high energy person, like, good on you. That's an amazing thing. It really is. But I'm not that. And so maybe if you are tired all the time and you just don't have the energy, maybe you're pushing yourself a little too hard. You're not that high energy and you're just trying to achieve something that by pushing yourself. So those are the energy types and personalities. The other one that I like to talk about is love languages. And this is a book by Gary Chapman. He talks about the 5 love languages. And again, I highly, highly encourage you read it, because understanding how you give love and how you receive love are extremely important. And basically put, we have these love tanks, and if there's these 5 love languages, some people get it with gifts, some people get it with physical touch, other people get it with words of affirmation, acts of service, and there's another one. Did I get them all? Anyway, they're all in the book. But the thing is typically we give love the way we want to receive love, but we don't usually marry or in a relationship with a person that has the same love language. You absolutely can, if both of you could be both physical touch, but not always. And so if you have somebody who's one person's a physical touch and the other person's an acts of service, then let's just say that person who's physical touch, they're going to be hugging that other person. They're going to be cuddling up to that other person. And yeah, it can be nice, but that doesn't fill the other person's love tank. That doesn't make the other person feel loved. However, if you were to load the dishwasher or make them their favorite meal, or put gas in their car, or give them a massage, something like that, an act of service, doing something for them that relieves their all of their part of their responsibility, that shows love. And so by doing these things, again, read the book because it's amazing. But by doing these things, it can only help your relationship, because now it even talks about in the book how some people will say, well, I've been buying this person gifts and I've been telling them that I love them, and they just keep saying, I don't feel loved. I don't feel loved. And then come to find out their love language was physical touch. But the other person wasn't really a hugger, wasn't really a toucher. And so they didn't feel loved. And so there's a huge gap in the relationship. And so that's a huge one. And I think it's pretty obvious that understanding people's love language definitely can affect a relationship. But how does it look in business? Well, if you have a company or you work with people and you want to appreciate people, understanding their love language definitely can help. Because if somebody has acts of service, then maybe you can, do something, help them with a report, or let's say their words of affirmation. Well, then in front of everybody, you can say, hey, everybody, look at Stephanie. She did this amazing thing. Can we all give her a moment and just tell her what an amazing job she did? And that makes people feel appreciated. It makes them feel loved within the company or within the workspace. And then, so that is a huge thing, that love languages can work for so many different things. All right, now I'm going to give Tony Robbins credit for this one, because that's where I heard it from. But I do know many, many other people that have used this. And to be honest, I don't even know where Tony Robbins got it, but it is the top 6 needs. And this one is truly why whenever we're doing something, it's to get one of these needs met. So we have like our basic needs, right? Like water, food, shelter, that kind of thing. So once those needs are met, then it goes to these needs. And these ones are the top 4. And I'm going to stop at the top 4 because I'll explain. Are variety, consistency, love and connection, and significance. So those are the top 4. And those ones absolutely have to be met. The next 2, we need them, but we only need them if the first 4 have been met, which is growth and contribution. So if, let's say, what I have noticed in churches and religion is sometimes there's this high intensity to serve, contribute. But if you don't have the other 4 needs met, like if you don't have significance or you don't have love and connection, you really can't offer a whole lot of service or contribution because you're so depleted in the other 4 areas. But when you have the 4 areas, those are being full and you have those, you continually get support in those. Now having growth, now having contribution just makes your life, it bumps it up to just an amazing life. So again, you have to have the top 4 first, but to have a really amazing life, you need growth and contribution. So what variety looks like, variety is often looked at as fun, adventurous, change. It's just a really fun thing. And some people, that is, if that's your big need, like your top need, then you like to change things up a lot. The other one is consistency, and that is just feeling safety. For myself, like I had kind of chaos in my life, and so I really crave consistency a lot more than variety. Then there's love and connection. Love and connection is exactly what it sounds like. Feeling loved, feeling connected with people. And then you have significance. This is being respected, feeling like there's an importance. There's a reason that you're here. There's a reason that, you have a purpose on this earth. And when you feel that purpose, people are like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. So you feel really respected. Growth is moving, always trying something new, and you're growing it and you're getting better at it. And contribution could be service. It could be there that you are helping others. Okay, so those are the 6 needs. And the interesting thing is, anytime we do something, it is to fill one of those needs. So if you're in a relationship, you're trying to get love and connection typically. If you're start a business, it could be to get significance. So when you figure out your top needs, now you can figure out why you're doing things that you're doing. And sometimes it'll actually help you to recognize the unhealthy things. So let's say you're in an unhealthy relationship. Okay, what are you getting out of this unhealthy relationship, right? Then you can start to feel like, well, I feel love and connection. Okay, well, could we get love and connection in a healthier way? Does it have to be from a really toxic and abusive relationship? Or can we find other people who give us love and connection in a healthier way, right? Significance. Some people go after significance, and they, again, it could be a really unhealthy way of getting significance, of constantly, those people who like do the one-upper stories, right? And if you're that type of person, like you just kind of always have to one-up that person. Well, are you trying to get significance? Are you trying to feel important? Okay, what are some healthier ways that we can get significance? Are you a person who constantly spends a ton of money, just goes and spends money? Well, maybe that's getting you variety. Okay, so is there a way to get variety and fun and change and adventure without spending your money all the time? Like, can we have some savings and still get the variety? So one of the things that I like to do with this is, now that we've kind of gone through it, make a list and pit the top needs, but also figure out who you are. So here's your energy type, right? Here's your love language. All right, so if you're looking at myself, I'm a 4. My love language is, let's say, acts of service. And then let's say my top need is like significance and consistency. Those are the top 2 for me. So what are some healthy ways? That's who I am as a person. That's going to drive me as the person that I am, to get me all of my needs met, right? So then I kind of go through the top needs. Well, what can get me significant? What are healthy ways to get me significance? What are healthy ways to get me consistency? And then you kind of adjust your day. And if you want to take it the next step, so this would be like step 1, but let's say you've already kind of figured that out. This is not brand new information to you. You're like, okay, I can do this very, very quickly. So the next step would actually be is take all 6 areas and write down all the things right now that you actively do throughout the day that get you each need. So let's say, what gets you variety that you're doing, not that you could do, but that you're actually doing. Then you take what need or what gets you consistency, what makes you feel safe, what makes you, if maybe it's watching the same movie over and over again, you just feel that warm, cozy feeling. Then you say, okay, what gives you love and connection? And do those things or write down the things that are giving you love and connection right now. What gives you significance? And be really honest, even if they're very toxic traits, right? Like, even if you're like, I keep staying, I feel love and connection with this person. I know they're toxic. I know they're not good, but that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, put it down. Put it down so you know the habits that you have right now. What are you doing for growth? What are you doing for contribution? And sometimes you'll see as you write these down that what you're doing, how depleted you are in certain areas, or how overly you're doing a lot. Like, you might be overdoing in consistency, where your whole day is, I just need consistency. And maybe you're bored a little bit. But whenever you try to do something variety, you're like, oh, that's too much change. That's too much chaos. So you go back to consistency. Well, now you kind of have an idea of what you're dealing with, what habits or the lies that you're telling yourself, right? Why can you not, this is jumping a little bit, but why can you not have a little bit more consistency? What is freaking you out about that? Okay. And now you're going to start to see the habits, the stories, the lies that you're telling yourself, because if you want to be balanced, it should be pretty balanced in all these things. Then you're going to make a list after you can see what you're doing now. Okay, what are some things that you could do to add in all the areas, right? So let's say you're getting love and connection from this really toxic relationship. Okay, what could you do to replace that toxic relationship? Do you have friends that you connect with? Okay, maybe you don't have another person right now, but if you left that relationship, do you have friends? Do you have family? Do you have people who truly love you that can give you that love and connection? And start to see a way you can transfer those toxic ways of getting what you need into a more healthy way. And just pick one. Maybe some of the stuff you can't do right now, and that's okay. Don't stress about it. Just start working on one, or start adding what you can. So this is really important. Those needs are going to help you to see the areas in your life, and maybe it'll show you physically how you're moving throughout the day. Maybe you need to get more exercise because maybe you are feeling a little stagnant. Maybe you need better relationships, and you need to work on that. That's the thing that you have to work on, and you've got to recognize and start. What does a healthy relationship look like? Maybe you have the consistency. Maybe you can't be very consistent. So where do you fix that? What does that look like? And it doesn't mean that you need to become type A person. That's not what that means. It's just, where can you add a little bit more? So understanding your personality, your energy type, understanding your love language, understanding your 6 needs, these are all going to help you to have a broader picture of who you are as a person. And they can help you in your business. They'll help you in your relationships. They'll help you in your physical health to really recognize what self-care looks like. I know a lot of times when people talk about your physical health, we talk about diet and exercise, but self-care is a huge part of it. And so if you can understand your needs, your personality, what it is that looks like, you can now understand your self-care. You can now understand what activities to prioritize that's going to align with the needs of your physical and mental well-being. Overcoming and understanding those challenges and conflicts, and discuss the knowledge of all of these, the personality traits, the love language, and the needs. They can really help you navigate conflict. And because now it's going to set your boundaries, because here's what that looks like. You have your rules. These are what I call your rules. So your energy type, personality, your love language, your top needs. these are your rules, like I said in the beginning. Your rules set your standards, and your standards set your boundaries. So now when you come into a relationship or a dynamic with other people, you now know this is what I need as a person, because this is who I am as a person. And I need my life to look a certain way for me to function. It's not that you can't be flexible, but you know what it's got to go back to. So for me, I'll use myself as an example. A few months ago, we went to a wedding as a family. I am a person who loves a lot of consistency. I do not like change. I do not like chaos. I don't find that interesting. I don't find it fun. I don't find it interesting. It's just a lot of stress for me. And I went to this wedding with our whole family. I had very little in charge, very little consistency. We were all staying in this Airbnb together. There was 20 of us. So you can imagine there was very little consistency. There was very little comfort happening in what I would consider my level of comfort. At the same time, I chose to do that because I wanted to be with these people. I wanted the experience. So that was enough variety for me. I wanted that experience. So I have had, because I know my boundaries, because I know what I needed, I was able to relax a little bit and just go with the flow, because number one, it wasn't going to last for her. It was like a 4-day thing. That was it. It was 4 days of kind of chaos and madness. And then it was going to be over. And I was back in my home where I was totally in control of my day. The second thing is there were certain parts of it that I was very consistent with for myself. So I made sure that I set things up to where the things that I could control, I controlled. And they made me happy. For breakfast, I thought, okay, I scheduled how it was going to look. I said, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to go to the grocery store. We're going to pick up this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Where I was with people who very easily are just we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. And then come to find out, people are hungry. Everybody's what are we going to eat? And it's kind of chaotic. So I took my skill, not in a dictatorship, but in all right, I thought ahead of time. And that's a gift that I brought to everybody. I thought, hey, we need to get up at this time, and we're going to go to the store, go get breakfast, and we'll come back. By the time everybody has woken up, there will be breakfast. Now, of course, it wasn't perfect, but it was fine. And it worked fairly well. And of course, there were hiccups. But again, because I had certain things that I could control that were my boundaries, but I also was it's a 4-day thing. I'm just going to roll with it. I have zero control over the majority of this, but it's going to be fine. And as soon as I got home, I got back on my schedule. I got back on the things that I needed, and I did it the way that I wanted to. And so by understanding that, I was able to have a good time. And maybe for you, that's not a big deal. It's oh, it's a wedding. Just enjoy yourself. That sounds like a great time. Everybody thrown in together in one big house. What a great fun. And if that's you, that's great. But there's going to be something else that maybe being alone by yourself in a hotel room with nobody, maybe that's the hard thing for you. Maybe just sitting and meditating is a hard thing for you. And so get what you need so that you can, when things come about that are hard for you, you handle them fine because you've had enough of your boundaries. You've had enough of your standards that you can maintain it for a few days until you can get back to what is comfortable and what is right for you. So, understanding these things, I just want to make sure that you take away that you as a listener that you really can start to think about who you are, become very self-aware of who you are as a person. So you have these powerful tools of personally growing, but also professionally growing, improving your relationships, and just having an overall enhancing your well-being is really my goal. And I would love to hear if there's any revelation of like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was low energy and I was trying to be a high energy. Like, what was kind of the bigger shock to you guys about really recognizing your rules? Like, maybe you didn't know rules created your standards. Standards create your boundaries. Because like when I put that together, that was kind of an aha, because you were talking to somebody who had zero boundaries, right? Like I'll be the first to admit, I am a recovering people pleaser. And it's mainly because I had no boundaries whatsoever. So, all right. Super excited to have you guys understand your rules and how it affects you. Anyways, I love hearing all you guys's your takes on stuff, and I really appreciate all of those of you who listen and to allow me to continue to do this podcast. So until next time, we will definitely see you later. Bye.